The Jays are back in the AL East race for now, but the injury bug, it's a biting. King James and the Raptors? No, there's no link there at all, but we'll talk about them both. Stevie P drops by to talk some NFL as some tags are being tagged. And we're gearing up for the Women's World Cup, and we're going to be saying goodbye to some legends. And speaking of legends, Miami's Messi finally shows up, and what a night it was. It's the Homestand Show. Buckle up. He makes the intro graphic, and now he's on the show in the co-host seat. It's producer Shawn McCormick.
I had no idea that was happening.
Look at that, buddy. That's a James Sharman special. Threw you in the intro graphic.
Thanks, guys.
Congratulations.
Glad to feel part of the team, you know.
Well, welcome to the Homestand Show.
Oh, thank you.
Shawn McCormick, and everyone watching on the Homestand YouTube. We've got a packed show for you today. We've got Steven Psihogios jumping on from NorthStar Bets. We're going to talk some NFL. D-Hop, he doesn't go to the Bills. He doesn't go to the Chiefs. Where does he go? The Tennessee Titans to win the AFC South. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Saquon Barkley and what's going to happen with his situation. The Giants, he wants more money. Is he going to get it? Is he going to sit the season? Or is he going to play? We'll talk about all that stuff with Steven Psihogios. Also on the show, Noor Zainab will join me to talk basketball. Tyler Herro, rumored to go to the Toronto Raptors, potentially to be involved in the Dame Lillard trade. We'll touch on that. Joel Embiid had a little bit of a conversation with Maverick Carter talking about wanting to win a championship, whether it's in Philly or anywhere else. Ooh. So Philly fans are up in arms today. Also, Sarah Pararia and James Sharman will stop by of Room 442 to preview the Women's World Cup and talk Lionel Messi. Did you watch his unveiling yesterday?
Unveiling?
Yeah.
I did not, but I caught a little bit of it on Twitter, and it looked like what are we doing as a society?
What do you mean?
What are we doing? Did he really, do you really need to do that? He already signed the contract. Do you really need this spectacle, this show?
Yeah, you do, actually.
But why?
Because he's maybe the greatest player of all time? Going to a North American soccer organization?
Yeah, but did the people at Publix care? No.
Yeah, they do. Oh, you know what? No, they didn't.
But the stadium, it was packed, right?
Yeah, it was packed.
So, I hear you, and I'm not downplaying this for MLS or for Messi.
You are a little bit.
But no, I just don't think you need a sideshow. It's a huge thing for the club. It's a huge thing for the MLS or the MLS. Yeah, I'm going to say it. But you don't need it. You don't need that spectacle. It does. I mean, maybe was it for Busquets? Is that why they did it?
No, that was so under the radar. That was buried, right? Don't bury the lead. And Busquets, yes, also coming from Barcelona to Inter Miami. And I mentioned on the Parlay Show earlier today that he now becomes the best midfielder in MLS, coming from a guy who doesn't really watch too much MLS. I'm just assuming no one's better than Sergio Busquets.
Move over Mark Anthony K.
Oh, wow. Well done, man. Latif Blessing, you're dropping all the names. Yeah, no, it does matter. I mean, the place was sold out on a rainy night in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Yeah. Can't get that out. And people came to see Messi. That's just how it goes.
I mean, I'm glad it worked out for both Inter Miami and MLS. Let's see how he does on the pitch on Friday.
Yeah, he plays in the League's Cup against Cruz Azul as his first game. We're in the number 10.
That's my favorite squadron.
Cruz Azul. Oh, you like Cruz Azul?
Yeah, I love him.
Very good Mexican Liga MX team, so I'm sure you'll be watching. So Inter Miami don't really have a really good chance of making the playoffs, but they have a chance to win the League Cup. It's going to be difficult to do so. Also, they're in the U.S. Open Cup, and they play FC Cincinnati in the semifinals. As I can tell, you're very interested in that information. We'll talk about that later.
I love it.
With Sarah Pararia and James Sharman. We should probably start with the Blue Jays sweeping the D-backs. Well done, by the way. Kikuchi looked like he lost it a bit earlier in the game, but figured it out. Mitch White came in, almost blew the game, but the bullpen figured it out for the Toronto Blue Jays, who have been phenomenal. Best bullpen in the Big since June 20th. That's saying a lot about this team, and the bullpen's been a concern throughout this season, and I think that's because the starting rotation was missing some of that power in terms of Alek Manoah. But listen, they're keeping this team in games and winning games for them.
Yeah, I mean, big shout out to Trevor Richards for being able to play the starter role or in a reliever role. You have Nate Pearson coming on for multiple innings as well. Yimi Garcia, and they've had some issues too. Like you said, Adam Simber hasn't really worked out.
No.
Yimi had a tough, rough start to the season as well. Chad Green hasn't pitched for the Jays yet. He's due back in a few weeks' time, I believe. And I think, the bullpen's been fantastic. I mean, over the weekend, giving up just 4 earned runs in 11 innings. And again, 3 of those were because they let Mitch White pitch. How comfortable do you feel with Mitch White pitching? Do you need like a 3-run lead, a 4-run lead? Like you're not bringing him in on a 2-run lead. Where would you bring him in? And the answer could be 0. You never want to bring him in, but
never want to bring him in. Maybe 5+.
And that's where he almost blew it.
I would say 5+. Even that's scary. You might have to go 10. Yeah, they got to figure out what they're going to do with that guy because it's not working out.
Yeah,
he even got lit up. What in AAA?
Yeah, when he was there, when he was pitching for the Bisons, he got destroyed too. Their pitching down there for Buffalo is not very good. But keep Jay Jackson up there. Bowden Francis has been look good. I mean, just keep Mitch White away from close games, and I think the bullpen will be just fine.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing, and they got another 3-game set coming up at the Dome against the Padres, who have been absolutely terrible. I mean, they're 10 games back in the NL West, 8 games back of a wild card. The Jays are going to send Manoah to the mound on Tuesday, followed by Barrios and Bissett. Kevin Gausman was supposed to go on Tuesday, but he has left side soreness. Yeah. I've had that a few times. You get out of the bed, you're like, what's this pain here? Is there a tumor on the side of me? I
just sneezed and you're out for a couple of days.
I mean, I'm sure that's not Gausman's issue.
Yeah.
He had some scans done. It came back negative, which is a good sign. But that leads me into our next conversation, which is about Marcus Stroman. And do the Toronto Blue Jays actually need another pitcher? So according to Bruce Levine, or Levine, my apologies if I screwed up your last name, of 670 the score in Chicago, he's reporting that the Jays are one of the teams that could be linked to Marcus Stroman. We have the quote here, but in the article it says the Cubs president of baseball operations, Jed Hoyer, said on Friday that the team's performance can still dictate which direction I guess the club will go over the next 2 weeks. And according to MLB sources, the Jays are one of the teams that have expressed strong interest in what may be a Stroman sweepstakes by the last week of July. Also in that article, industry reports have as many as 10 clubs in baseball looking at starting pitchers, and Stroman probably being at the top of that list with Lucas Giolito, I would believe.
Yeah, I mean, I would like them to get Stroman back. As you can tell, he's had a hell of a season, and you see his numbers there with the Jays. As a 3.76 ERA and a 47-45 record. He was here for many seasons. This season, just as good. I mean, I think he's 10-6 with a 2.88 ERA.
Yep.
And leads the league in quality starts with 15. I mean, everybody's going to want this guy. And, he's got a player option, which he's probably going to decline. But, I mean, he's set to make $21 million dollars next season. I just don't think the Jays can afford somebody like a Marcus Stroman. If that's what people are going to be after at the deadline, is this big arm that's going to win you games and eat up innings for you, the Jays prospect system, which I think is ranked 20th in the league, they don't really have the pieces I think needed to get this deal done. So our boy Nick Ashburn over at Yahoo Sports says that it's unlikely that this is going to happen. So I look at a couple other teams that could get it done, maybe the Orioles, maybe the Astros. And so I would love it, but I'm not seeing it for the Jays. No Stroman to the Jays, I don't think.
Stroman also has a $21 million player option that he's looking to decline. He had this to say. He goes, I have a great relationship with the Cubs front office. I love everything here. I just don't think they're in a position to sign me before the deadline. If I have to go somewhere else for 2 months to pitch, so be it. I'm in a good space mentally. So he's technically, I think, checked out of playing for the Cubs this season, and he's ready to move on. Yeah,
and I mean, again, he's not nearing the end of his career, but he's getting a little older, right? So he probably wants to win a World Series. I mean, who doesn't? Yeah. So he's probably looking to go to a contender next year. And I mean, it could be the Jays. It could be the Orioles, could be the Astros, could be a lot of teams that are looking to get his services, and he's probably looking to land another big contract before he retires. So all the power to Stroman. Again, loves Canada, loves the Jays, but I just don't see it happening.
So what happens if Manoah on Tuesday gets lit up in 2 innings and gets yanked again? Does that change the Jays front office mind once again? Is Ross Atkins thinking, oh, man, I thought Manoah was going to figure it out, and now he's not. Do we need to make a trade here?
I do think a trade is coming, whether it's – I don't know. Their needs right now, to me, is more about offense than it is about pitching. But there's, like you said, there's a lot of arms out there. There's Giolito, there's Lance Lynn, Jordan Montgomery, Stroman. So
Shohei Ohtani.
Shohei Ohtani, yeah, his name is out there as somebody that could get traded. You would have to give up like a Bo Bichette to get an Ohtani, and I don't think that's happening. So, yeah, I do think the Jays will try to do something, but I don't know if they need. I mean, sure, everybody would love to have Marcus Stroman, but yeah. I see them going further down the list because I think that's what they're able to afford right now is a lower end pitcher, somebody that's been struggling like a Lance Lynn. I know, but
great, dude. I know you're a big underlying numbers guy.
I mean, his underlying numbers are a bit better than his actual numbers, but I mean, a guy who strikes out a lot of batters, I think 140 strikeouts on the year, something like that. But I just, again, it's what can the Jays afford without mortgaging what they have right now? You know what I mean? You don't want to give up pieces that are helping you win right now to win a championship if you're just adding to win a championship. So, and they don't have the prospects really to attract these bigger names. So it's a tough spot for the Jays to be in as contenders, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. I just think another bat would be more affordable and more likely and more needed than an arm right now. But again, if you're right, if Gausman and Manoah
that's
struggle,
scary.
It's scary, and it's been scary all year. But I think that it's more needed to get a bat right
I like
now.
this Jays team, and we mentioned it. I mean, there's an outside shot that they catch Tampa Bay in the AL East. Baltimore just a game back of the Rays. Toronto 6 games back. And by the way, I know I touched on Shohei Ohtani. The Angels lost once again last night to the Houston Astros. But once again, Shohei Ohtani hit a home run in the 9th inning. They're now 9 games back of the Texas Rangers in the AL West. 6 games back of a wild card. It's over.
They're done.
It's finished.
No, I agree with you. They're done. And we talked about it earlier on the Parlay Show.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think they should trade Ohtani. But again, it's just such a tough deal to get done. You brought up Baltimore earlier, and when saying like Baltimore could possibly, I think it was you or Rob that brought up Baltimore possibly landing Ohtani, and Baltimore has the number 1 ranked prospect system, and they have a lot of pieces on the field that they could move to. You got Cedric Mullins and Anthony Santander, Jorge Mateo, and then they've got Westberg, they've got Gunnar Henderson. They've got a lot of names that they could move. But I see them landing a Stroman over an Ohtani just because, again, I don't know what the price for Ohtani is, and I don't know if the Angels really, really, really want to move this guy. I think they'd rather just try to re-sign him, but that's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah, I don't think there's something you can look at and be like, this is what we need for Ohtani. It's like, give me everything, you have, and then we'll consider it. I think that's what it is.
And that's the price you got to pay, right? It just depends on what the Angels can get and what other teams are willing to pay. Like I said earlier, I think if I'm other big market teams, I'm not going to try to give anything away. I'm just going to try to lure him in the offseason. And if I miss out on him, that's a risk you got to be willing to take. It's a huge risk. But again, you're not mortgaging your future as well by shipping off a ton of players and prospects. I'm nuts. I know, and I get where you're coming from, and I want to agree with you. I want to agree with you, but I can't.
Again, people need to understand.
I get it.
What this guy is and what he's doing. On pace for 59 home runs.
He's the best player.
Potentially
in the
hit
majors.
60 home runs.
Yes.
He's clutch. We've seen it in the WBC. He's hit about 1 million home runs in the 9th or later. Still trying to find that stat. Anyone who can find the stat where how many home runs has Ohtani hit in the 9th or later?
I'll see if I can dig it up.
I'm sure I could probably do that. It would probably take me about 10 minutes just to add it up. But anyway, find that stat for me so I can figure it out.
Sure.
And he's a top 2 guy in your rotation. There's no such thing, which means everything is on the table.
Yeah.
Go after this guy.
I get it.
The Angels take on the Yankees. They open up a series, and that's one of the teams that'll probably be in on him. I have this crazy Ohtani stat here. So Babe Ruth, he had 159 home runs in his first 674 career games. His win-loss as a pitcher, 35-18. Ohtani, in that same amount of time, 160 home runs, 35-19. Eerily similar. So this is Babe Ruth, but Babe Ruth on steroids. Ohtani's not on steroids, but I'm just making a point.
Yeah, again, he's a once-in-a-generation type player. It's just
Stop dismissing who this guy is, all right, Shawn McCormick?
He's fantastic.
Yes, he is fantastic, just like you.
Thanks,
okay, we got anything else on the Jays? No, I think we're pretty clear here. What do you think, quickly, before we get you out of here, this Padres series? You fancy the Jays to win the series?
The Jays are facing the...
I didn't know you played for the Jays.
I do.
Oh, nice.
I'm better than Alejandro Kirk.
Are you a utility guy like Kevin Biggio? Or?
No. I could play every position out there.
Well, you do look like Joe Biagini, so maybe you're coming out of the pen.
They don't need me, though. They don't need me right now.
Yeah, what do you think?
So the Jays play Musgrove, they play Darvish, they play Snell. Damn. Those are the Padres' 3 best pitchers, which I would prefer if they weren't playing the Padres' 3 best pitchers. I think the Jays will take 2 of 3.
Yeah.
But I'm really worried about the start tomorrow for Manoah. I mean, he didn't walk anybody against the Tigers, but the Tigers have the 22nd best walk rate in the league. The Padres have the best walk rate in the league. So
yeah,
we'll see. And obviously, like that top of the order, you've got Machado, you've got Bogarts, you've got Soto, you've got Tatis. I did it in the wrong order, but those are the 4 names.
It doesn't matter. Those guys are all in there.
And then you've got the rest of the order, right? So we've seen Manoah implode early in games. That's a key first 4 at bats.
This isn't the Detroit Tigers.
Yes,
this is the Padres. This is a true test. And Tatis, who rolled his ankle, is expected to play. Said he's fine and he's going to be ready to go. But he is going to the Dome to play on turf. So I don't know if the Padres are going to risk him.
They'll play him.
Think so?
Yeah, they'll play.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Shawn McCormick, thank you so much. You'll join us a little bit later to chat some more. Some NFL with Steven Sahuyas. Coming up next, we're bringing in Noor Zainab to talk some basketball. Tyler Herro linked to the Toronto Raptors, so we'll touch on that shortly. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you're listening to this on a podcast, also rate it, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. You can get this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify. Let's bring her in right now, the one and only Noor Zainab.
The one and only Albert Vartanian. Thank you so much for having me.
By the way, that was producer Shawn McCormick who just blurred past your screen like the Daredevil. Is it the Daredevil that goes fast?
It's Flash.
The Flash. That's the one. The Flash. The Flash. Shawn McCormick. Okay, so where should we begin? Over the weekend, we had some news about Tyler Herro potentially being linked to the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
This is from Michael Scoto. I'm sorry if I destroyed your last name, of Hoops Hype. He's reporting the Toronto Raptors can also be added to the list of teams that have expressed exploratory interest in acquiring Herro as part of a multi-team trade between the Blazers and Heat involving Lillard, league sources told Hoops Hype. So make of this what you will. Right. Your thoughts on the Raptors potentially going after Tyler Herro in a 3-team trade?
This is the one rumor I really like. I like what it looks like. And
really?
I think what's happening here is that Miami wants to do that deal with the Blazers. They want to bring in Damian Lillard, but Blazers don't like what Miami has to offer. So what Miami wants to do now is add a 3rd team into it that can send their assets and their young picks to the Blazers. And in that way, you can get Tyler Herro. Whatever team wants to sign up for it, whether that be the Utah Jazz, Toronto Raptors, whoever, can get Tyler Herro. And honestly, I think this is your best chance at getting someone who fits your timeline super well. Herro is a young guy. He's 23. Mm-hmm. He just got in the league a couple years ago, and he's already taken the league by storm. He's a good shooter. He's been in the playoffs, has decent experience over there as well. And I think he fits the timeline of this Raptors team. No matter where Messi wants to take it, I know he may want to create a younger team, but I look at this as him being an upgrade over Gary Trent. That's a rich man's Gary Trent. Right. You know what I mean? So in this moment, all you'd have to do for the Raptors is you got to get rid of either Siakam, OG, Gary Trent, or Boucher to match the salaries. But that's decent. That's not bad. And you're getting Tyler Herro out of it. I know last year he was injured for the playoffs. Didn't really play that much. But I think his where he's supposed to go, his potential is super high. And with him, with the Raptors, there's nothing bad that comes out of it. Like, I'm trying to think of something that might not work. Maybe the injury factor, but I think he fits
even
everything.
Then,
yeah, you know what I mean?
The thing is, like, it's what's going out.
Yeah.
For the Raptors to make this happen, you know? And for some reason, you know, Tyler Herro's taking a lot of heat online from Raptors Twitter. No pun intended with the heat. Like, he's a bad player. This guy's like a top 60, 65 player in the NBA. He's a 20-point guy. You didn't see much of him in the postseason because of the broken hand or wrist, I think.
Yeah.
But the comparisons also online were to Tyrese Maxey. I know I would say he's a better player, but Herro's not that far off, and the Raptors need guards. So, I mean, just bringing him in makes sense. It's just what you're going to have to pay for this guy.
I get that too. And the only thing there I think that you could have maybe some sort of spite towards is the fact that you're going to have to give up some picks for him. And I think at this point, the Raptors want to only give up picks for younger guys or give up picks to get better picks. But I think this is not like... I don't know, Albert. I don't think it's a bad thing to do. Like, I know Herro was with Miami. Like, he was one of the only shooters that they had. Him, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent on a good day. That's pretty much it. But he was carrying the shooting load whenever Butler wasn't able to be the Butler guy. And not this year's playoffs, but last year's playoffs. He was a big key factor there too. So I think he's still young, 23, on a good salary right now too, 4 years, $120 million. You're going to give that to Fred VanVleet anyway. Isn't that a good number?
Yeah, and I'm looking at depending on what the Toronto Raptors keep. Let's say here's your starting five: Scotty Barnes, Tyler Herro, Pascal Siakam, OG Jakob Poeltl, and on the bench, Schroeder, Gary Trent, Grady Dick, Jalen McDaniels, Precious Achiuwa. That's if you pick those players. Maybe Boucher goes the other way. That's a team I think can make the playoffs. That's a top 6 team in the East, right?
For me, it's also just like whether you want to get rid of Pascal Siakam at some point. The factor is like you are still going to be a team that can go towards a younger rebuild because Herro's a young guy. 23 is still very young. That's the same as OG. So they kind of fit that same timeline for me. Yeah. And that's how I kind of viewed Gary Trent. But Herro is, again, like a rich man's, I don't know, Gary Trent, probably. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, it works. Yeah. It works.
Herro was a 6th man of the year. He started all 67 games last season. 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 44% from the field. Not bad. I wanted to get your take on this. So in that same article, Noor, it says, despite the palpable buzz surrounding Siakam, some around the league aren't buying that he'll be traded. This is from an NBA scout that told Hoops Height, had said this: Toronto always does the same thing. They dangle their guys, and then they pull them back.
Yeah, a little bit. We've seen that with Pascal
Are you seeing
Siakam.
That same trend?
I think we've seen it. If you're a Raptors fan, or even if you've been a part of a team that has been trying to do deals with the Raptors, you've been noticing that quite a bit. And I will say, I think it got to a point now where it's no longer about what they can and can't do. They kind of have to trade Pascal Siakam because the relationship must have soured. There's no way the relationship has been soured. You've been putting Pascal in trade talks all year. Whether that's anyone leaking anything about it, it looks like it's coming from the Raptors camp, who is leaking all the teams that want to go fight for Pascal to kind of get his market up throughout the league to see what other teams can kind of, almost bidding wars for each other for. And I think at this point, if Pascal comes back, the Raptors have to give him exactly what he's asking for. Otherwise, the relationship is gone. And if he comes back, like that is only going to be something that you might trade down the line next season. So even if Pascal's not traded before the next season, he still could get traded in the season. What happens next year. So I would not rule out Pascal not being on this team as of next season, not this coming season, 2024, 2025.
We might get the Herro Siakam duo that the Toronto Raptors actually need. They need a guard. Listen, I wanted to touch on quickly on Dame. So this thing is still ongoing, which is incredible. I love Dame, but I feel like I'm starting to lose a lot of respect for this guy.
No.
You know, what are we hearing? That his agent is calling around, and I've mentioned this before, that, listen, he don't even put in a package together for him because he wants to go to the Heat, and he's going to sit out and make your team's life a living hell.
Yep.
I mean, when you think about Dame, you think about the loyalty he's had. But at this point, it's kind of getting old. And I feel like the Portland Trailblazers just be like, if we don't get a deal for you, we're just going to sit you because you were with us last season and we were still terrible. So we're actually not losing that much, right? So where do you sit right now in terms of this whole Damian Lillard situation?
I see that side of it for sure because I think what he's doing is taking his value. And to do that, especially coming from a point where you were like, I am the loyal guy. I am the guy that Portland needs. I will never leave this town. He meets me. And getting to a point now where you want to be traded, but you're going the trading route in a very savage way where you're not going to get anything back for the team that you love, apparently, and you're so loyal to. So that that sucks. But I will say I was humbled a little bit about my opinion on this because I was like, yeah, what the hell, Dame? And someone I know told me, actually, Mr. Kevin Kennedy, who works here, actually had something wise to say. He said, you know what? How about the fact that as a player, you get drafted, and let's say you get drafted like as top 5, right? And you bring brought into the league, and you're just being told what to do at this point. So you did your job when you were in college or whatever, and you came out to be the top scout, the top draftee, and they awarded you by sending you to the shittiest team in the league and telling you to go, figure out what you want to do there. So he's like, does it not make you want to give these players a little bit of freedom about what they want to do, where they want to go, because the owners call everything? But at the same time, I think there's an ethic involved in how you go about things,
right? And
that's where he kind of lost everything. Where again, like the same thing with Siakam, right? Like it's weird because you're seeing two guys tank their value, but Dame's doing that, wanting to leave, and Siakam. I've never seen someone. I have this tweet as well. I've never seen someone tank his value to stay on the same team. Like he's trying to stay on the same team and killing any other traction out there, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, I don't understand it. Listen, bad teams have been drafting good players since the beginning of time. Nothing has changed. It doesn't mean that you get to dictate what you want to do. And like Jerry West, he just came out and said, he goes, the players don't have as much power as people think that they do, especially the players. Okay, before I let you go, I just want to get your take on this Joel Embiid clip. Ellie, if we can roll the clip. He was talking to Maverick Carter, and it's got the Philly fans up in arms a little bit.
You're great, but what can we look forward from Joel Embiid?
I just want to win a championship. Whatever it takes. I don't know where that's going to be, whether it's in Philly or, anywhere else. I just want to have a chance to accomplish that. I want to see what it feels like to win that first one and then think about, the next one. It's not easy, but, it takes more than, 1, 2, 3 guys. You gotta have, good people around you, and like myself, every single day I work hard to, be at that level, so I can produce and make it happen. So
the main takeaway for me, and this is what everyone is kind of jumping on, I don't know where that's going to be, whether it's in Philly or anywhere else. So now Philly fans are like, really? This is really happening? They still have the Harden situation going on.
Yeah.
Looks like he's going to be traded. Hasn't been traded yet.
Yeah.
But let me put a line through Harden. And who do you have running the point at the moment? Do you send Maxey up there? Do you go Pat Bev? You got to make a move. So when you hear that from Embiid, is that just the player saying he wants to win and you make nothing of it? Or is there cause for concern if you're a Philly fan?
I think this could be a trade request preview.
Really?
This could be like the beginning of the domino effect, because if you look at the team that he's been involved in with Philly, is great. Philly's been one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Embiid's been a great player as well. Only problem with that is I don't think they've made the team kind of work around Embiid, and that's because Embiid's not able to stay healthy in the offseason. Why is that? Because there's not enough depth around him in the regular season. So he kind of has to play every single game that he can. He has to overexert himself or overexert his body. And by the time the playoffs come around, he's playing through like broken faces and broken thumbs. Shout out to my guy S who broke this down. So 2018, he had a broken face and a concussion. 2019, knee tendonitis. 2021, torn meniscus. 2022, broken face and a torn thumb. 2023, knee sprain. And he's only missed 8 of 61 playoff games. So he's tried to play through all of them.
Right.
This shows you that he's able to play. He's a good player, but he just doesn't have the depth around him that can keep him healthy throughout the season into the postseason as well. Like he is not able to do that. So I think they need to gather a better team, give him more depth, especially off the bench. But until they do that, which I don't think they're going to, because I don't know about Daryl Morey. I don't know how he's going to construct their roster together. You could see Embiid maybe heading out somewhere else.
I feel for him for the injuries, but he did have James Harden, Tyrese Maxey last season.
He also had Ben Simmons at some point.
It's true. I mean, he had players around him. I'm not a big Embiid guy, but listen, if you're playing through all those injuries, I get what's going on. Quickly, before we let you go here and we hit the break, we should probably touch on this just because it's LeBron James, but he's changing his number back to 23. And if anyone is keeping count, here it goes. He was 23 with Cleveland, 6 with the Heat because 23 is actually retired in Cleveland because Pat Riley retired it because of Michael Jordan. Went back to 23 with Cleveland, back to 6 with LA, and now 23 again. And if you're keeping count, James has now worn 23 in 14 of his 20 NBA seasons, which will now be 15 of his 20.
Yeah.
So there's that, Noor.
I just I just don't get why you would do that now and not last summer.
Because LeBron James likes to put himself in the news cycle. Haven't you noticed that?
Yeah.
Like,
but what would you remember him by? 23 or 6? If you think LeBron, what are you thinking? Oh, you're just LeBron.
I don't know if I'm even
LeBronto.
thinking a number. Honestly, that's a great question. I don't
Right?
think 23 or 6. I mean,
yeah, I think the only thing I see 23, but that's just because of all the memes that I remember of him. Like it's
Right,
been 23. That's it. But yeah, that's maybe just choose a number where maybe he's not going to retire at some point, LeBron.
I associate
We'll
I associate 6 with Miami because he was dominant.
Yeah.
I know he wore 6 for USA as well.
Yeah.
But 23, that's his number. It's just unfortunate that it's also Michael Jordan's number. The true GOAT. Come at me. Noor Zainab, thank you so much. Okay, coming up, we're going to take a little break. But after the break, Steven Psihogios is going to join us to talk some NFL. Please stay tuned for that. And look who's back in the studio, Shawn McCormick, a.k.a. The Flash. Look who's joining us for the first time in a long time. One of my favorites, Steven Psihogios of NorthStar Bets. Stevie P, what's happening, brother?
Not too much, Albert. Glad to be back. Looking forward to it. It's the middle of summer, so we're a little ways away from hockey and football, but the offseason still gives us plenty to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Where you been, man? You been dodging us or what? Trying to get Stevie P on the horn. What? He's nowhere to be found.
Look, I promise I haven't been dodging. There's nothing more that I want to do than be on this show.
Yeah,
so,
buddy.
Look, it's just been bad timing. You know, we've been a couple ships just passing each other in the night.
Yes.
Glad we could finally meet up today.
First of all, I should ask you, how's the leg doing? I know was it your ACL you did?
Well, it was supposedly my ACL. Then the MRI came back.
That's
it
right.
was just a dislocated kneecap. So
Just
it's much better.
kneecap.
I was the happiest person in the world with that diagnosis. You must have pulled anybody who's been given that diagnosis. They probably all walked out of the doctor's office like really dejected. I was like thrilled. So actually, I went for my first jog yesterday. It's starting to feel a little bit
good.
better. We're moving around a little bit more. We'll be ready for training camp.
Well, your next jog your way down here, man. We got to get you in studio, dude. It's got to happen.
Yes. Yes, that's
okay.
a must this summer.
Yeah, you're right. We're in the offseason, but lots going on. Let's talk about the NFL. DeAndre Hopkins not going to the Bills. He's not going to the Chiefs. He's not going to any contender, really. Maybe a contender to potentially upset the Jags and win the AFC South. If you want to call it an upset, your thoughts on D-Hop going to Tennessee?
Well, look, this guy, everyone's saying you can't complain about D-Hop like chasing the bag and whatever. But this guy said like 2 months ago, or less than 2 months ago, I want stable management. I want a quarterback who loves the game. And, basically saying I want to win. That's not happening in Tennessee. I'm sorry. Ryan Tannehill's best years are far behind him. Who knows? Will Levis might be okay. But by the time he gets in there, the Tannehill damage is going to be too far to overcome. Henry is 29 years old. That offensive line is brutal. Like, I don't know what he's trying to do here, DeAndre Hopkins, other than chase the bag. But if you want to do that, that's fine. But just be upfront about it. Just let us all know so we know, okay, you're not serious about playing for the Bills or the Chiefs. You just want to go get your money.
Yeah, but that's never the case, right? We never hear the actual truth. It's like the live players who defected from PGA going to Saudi. It's like European soccer players going to Saudi Arabia. They'll never say it's about the money, but we all know, dude, it's about the money. But he could definitely make an impact. At the moment, at NSB NorthStar Bets, you have the Jags minus 159 to win the AFC South. Titans plus 325. I'm not even going to mention the Colts or the Texans because I don't even think they're in consideration to even win 4 games, let alone win a division. So do you see any value whatsoever with DeAndre Hopkins on that team and Derrick Henry, who can obviously carry a huge load for them, to make the case at plus 325?
Not even a little bit. I'm not even going to try to sell you on the Titans.
Okay.
I actually think Indianapolis, if you're looking somewhere outside the AFC South, which you shouldn't. I was on the Jags last year at 7-1. Loved that pick hit in the last game of the season. I think if any team is going to upset Jacksonville in that division, it's the Indianapolis Colts. I think they had a really good draft. I expect their O-line to bounce back. It was kind of a weird year for that group last year. They've been so good for so long, and they kind of took a step back. But Richardson brings you at least a little bit of upside at quarterback. We can't say that about Tennessee for as long as they have Tannehill under center. So unless you can sell me an upside case that a 29-year-old Derrick Henry, who's had foot surgeries and this and that, is going to be, prime Derrick Henry, and the offensive line is going to be good, I just don't see the case for Tennessee. I'd rather go Indy, given the longer odds, if I'm going to pick anybody other than the Jags.
Johnny.
I don't know, Stevie. I mean, like the Titans last year, they started 7-3, right? And then they finished the season 7-10, right? So obviously not good. But do you think like injuries played a big role in that? I mean, they were the most injured team last season. So if they can stay relatively healthy, like I think they could compete for the division. I'm with you on the Jags, but I think at plus 325, if the O-line can hold just a little bit, maybe it's worth a little bit of a sprinkle.
That's still my biggest worry, though. I don't think that O-line is going to hold. And if you don't have an offensive line that's going to keep your quarterback upright, you can expect more injuries to happen. That's just what's going to happen in football, especially at quarterback. I like Levis. I actually, if I were to rank the quarterbacks of this class, I would go Levis number 2 ahead of Young and Stroud, just behind Richardson. But I still think Indy, if you get that O-line going again, it's easy to forget how dominant Jonathan Taylor was like 2 seasons ago. And now you have a rushing quarterback in Anthony Richardson that's going to create some open lanes for him. I really do think Indy ends up being the second best team in that division.
God, I totally forgot that the Titans lost 7 in a row to end the season. Jeez.
Yeah, no, and I'm hearing too that Malik Willis is actually sort of outplaying Will Levis in spring, like early spring. But we'll see there. And I'm looking too, like Stevie, maybe I'm thinking, and again, I don't want to harp on it too much, but the Titans, they start at New Orleans versus the Chargers, at Cleveland versus Cincinnati, at Indianapolis versus Baltimore in London. So, I mean, they're probably out to a 1-5, 1-6 start. So it's going to be an uphill climb, maybe something you can get better odds on as the season progresses. So maybe you're right not to look at it now, but maybe take a look at it.
Right. No,
maybe
I'm with
more
you.
Into the season.
Steve, let's talk NFC East a little bit. The Giants plus 700 to win that division. That is definitely not going to happen. And their best chance is getting obviously a wild card spot. But the news coming out of New York is Saquon Barkley, and the Giants apparently aren't even close yet. The deadline's at 4 p.m. Let's just say Barkley says, no, I don't want to play. We're sitting out the season, or at least the majority of the season. Do you give the Giants a chance at even sniffing a wild card next season?
I really don't, because he is so important on that offense. He takes pressure off of Daniel Jones, who I think is a good quarterback, but he needs the right pieces surrounding him. You take Saquon Barkley out of the equation, he doesn't have the right pieces surrounding him. They added Darren Waller this offseason, who's probably their number one target, even looking at the wide receiver group, because that group didn't get all that much better this year. They drafted a rookie in the second round, and that was about it. They didn't really do much else to bolster the rest of the receivers. So a lot of it's on Waller, who's a good tight end, but very few teams have a tight end as the number one option, and for good reason. It's just not a position the quarterback usually picks up in his reads. I expect them to set Waller up out wide quite a bit this season. You'll probably see him move around the formation a little bit, but if they don't have Barkley for those quick little dump offs for Daniel Jones, which was a big reason why the fumbles were cut back, and a big reason why he was much better as far as awareness goes last season, that's a major problem for the Giants.
Go ahead.
Yeah, do you think it's the reason the Giants don't want to pay him? Is it injury history? I mean, he tore his ACL back in, I think, 2021. Is it that? Or, there's only about 6 or so running backs that make more than the franchise tagged running backs right now. Is it just that not wanting to pay up at the position? What do you think it is, Stevie?
I think it's the latter there. I just don't think they want to pay up. You're just seeing a trend across the league. Nobody wants to give a running back a second contract worth anything. And it's more of a reflection of the position than it is the talent. Because Saquon Barkley, we can all agree, is a top 5, top 3, maybe the best running back in the NFL. You can really narrow that list down as to the running backs who are on his level. But that being said, finding a running back to replace him and give you solid numbers, not Barkley level, but solid numbers, has proven to be a pretty easy task for these general managers, especially with the rising trend of running back by committee. You don't even need one guy to replace Saquon Barkley. You can have a couple of guys, one guy who's a better runner, and maybe one guy who's a comparable pass catcher as Saquon Barkley, and you just fill that void with 2 guys. So it's just being able to replace a guy like that and not locking yourself into long-term contracts at that position is just what we're seeing spread across the league.
And if you're Barkley, I mean, you don't want to sit out because you're going to regret it. If you look back to what Le'Veon Bell, when he went through with the Jets, he did an interview, I think shortly after that, maybe a couple seasons after that, saying, if I can get into a time machine and turn back the hands of time, I'm paraphrasing, but he would go back and just figure it out and play. Same thing with Melvin Gordon, right? So if this is a Barkley situation, and you think about running backs, they have such a short shelf life in the NFL. You can't risk, not playing a season.
Yeah, every year is so valuable. Although Bell, I think maybe he'd want that year back because there was that story that he got robbed while he was off that one year.
That's right.
So maybe that's why he'd want to go back, so he doesn't get robbed. But still, the point is true. The running back shelf life is so short. Essentially, once you turn like 27, your best years are already behind you, which is a very young age in the NFL. You think about a position like wide receiver, you're really getting into your best years at 27. So it's unfortunate, but it's also a matter of the CBA as well. Like these running backs coming into the league, the rookies, they get paid so little. Why would you not just draft a fresh set of legs every draft, right? Why would you not take a fresh running back who doesn't have 1,000 NFL carries on his resume already? So that's just what the issue is, and that's how these general managers are dealing with the position.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right there, Stevie. And speaking of somebody who's like a premier at his position, Tyreek Hill came out over the weekend and he said, I think I can get to 2,000 yards receiving. I mean, that's never been done. Obviously, Calvin Johnson holds the record for most receiving yards in a single season. What do you think about that? And do you think it's possible? I think he could at least lead the league in receiving.
I think it's a little bit more possible just because of the extra game now. That does help the wide receivers. But if I were to pick a guy to get 2,000, I would not pick Tyreek Hill. And I mainly credit that to Tua Tagovailoa's health. Like, we just don't know if this guy can play a full season. And if he doesn't, we saw what the drop-off is after that. Like, Skylar Thompson is not getting any wide receiver to 2,000 yards.
Yeah, now it's Mitch White, too.
Jamar Chase. Yeah, and Magic Mitch White.
Mike White. I do this all the time. Mitch White's the pitcher for the Jays.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, Magic. I was just going with it. It sounded good to me. But yeah, Magic Mike White. behind Tua there. So he's not getting anybody to 2,000 yards either. So the point remains true. If I were to go with any wide receiver who's going to get to that mark, I would go with Jamar Chase, just because he's got the most quarterback stability of the big wide receivers playing with Joe Burrow. So Tyreek, if Tua stays healthy, maybe, but that's the part that I really doubt.
I don't know how anyone can believe that Tua can stay healthy.
I mean, he's doing some...
No, that's the one thing I'm leaning on. I'm like, listen, I don't want this guy I don't want anyone to get hurt.
Yeah.
But we see when this guy gets hit and he hits the ground, I don't care that he's growing out his traps.
He's doing
it doesn't
jiu-jitsu
matter.
too, man.
I don't care about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
If your head snaps back when you've had severe concussions, where you go stiff, all it takes is a 300-pounder to take you down, and not your season is over. Your career is probably over.
He contemplated retirement. I hear you. I just
don't understand the logic behind him going out there and playing. I know it's the do-re-mi. But what's the point of making all this do-re-mi when you can't, appreciate it when it's gone and enjoy it? Right, Stevie? Am I crazy here?
I don't think you're crazy. It was scary last year, and if I was Tua, I'm surprised how loyal he is to the Dolphins after all they've put him through. There's always been the Tom Brady rumors. They've always had rumors of trying to supplant him. It reminds me of in ancient times when even the movie Caesar. Remember when they Brutus and I can't remember the other guy, they planned to kill Caesar? It's Tua Caesar, and somebody's waiting to supplant him. They're always scheming to replace him. Brian Flores didn't like him. The owner's meeting Tom Brady on his yacht. They don't like the guy, yet he stays loyal to this team. They throw him out there 5 days after suffering a concussion. He gets concussed again, and he's still all about the Dolphins. I'm more surprised, not that he hasn't retired, that he hasn't asked for a trade out of Miami, because that organization has done him no favors since he joined.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch him play. And listen, if he can last the whole season, and if he plays extremely well, that we know that he can, the Dolphins are a serious threat. It'd be one of the best stories in sports, I think, if he can finish the whole season and potentially take this team on a deep playoff run.
I think he's second in comeback player of the year odds. DeMar Hamlin is number one.
You're not beating out DeMar Hamlin. What's the number on that, by the way? Is that out there?
Plus 1,500 or 1,600 or something like that, Stevie?
Is that not the lock of all locks?
No, that's for
Hamlin. Yeah, that was for Tua. I think Hamlin was minus 250, minus 300, which, you're basically just betting at that point, does he play this year? Because if he plays, if he takes one snap,
done.
You got to give it to Hamlin. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Tua.
Yeah, I'm
going to go with Tua. Performance. Nothing against DeMar Hamlin and his abilities. I just think if Tua comes back and plays the kind of season he played last year, where he was top 2, top 3 stats and eye test, that he could win. It's worth a sprinkle. I like the long shots.
Exactly. But Hamlin and Tua have been both players involved in two of the scariest moments last season. Hopefully none of that stuff happens again this season. Stevie, we got to let you go, but thanks so much for doing this, buddy. Hopefully we'll see you soon and in studio, man.
Yes. Let's organize something in studio, because I want to come down. I want to be in. It's just a different feeling being in the Homestand
different vibes.
So
we'll order up some food. Yeah, we got the Greek Freak down the street, or some chicken souvlaki, and we'll have a great time.
I'm sold. I'm in.
All right, Stevie. Thanks so much, buddy.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Thank you. That's Steven Psihogios of NorthStar Bets. I love that guy.
What a guy.
What a beauty, man.
Yeah.
What are you talking about taking Tua to win Most Improved Player?
What? I think it's worth a sprinkle.
Like Stevie said, Hamlin takes a snap. There's your minus 250. Bingo.
What if he does only plays a game or something? What if, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Dude, didn't he die basically on the field?
Yeah. But and
he plays a snap. You win.
No,
that is
I just
Uno.
don't like the odds.
What's that? Uno?
I don't like the odds. I don't know.
The trump card?
If Tua can play the way he played, he was putting up MVP numbers last year. If he can play that way, it's worth a sprinkle.
Yeah. You play to win the game.
Yeah.
Right, Shawn McCormick?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm kicking you out once again.
Again?
Get the hell out of the studio, man. I'm sick and tired of you.
Enjoy some soccer talk.
I love you, buddy. Yeah, time to talk some footy, man. Talk some Messi. Women's World Cup. Joining me shortly will be James Sharman and Sarah Pararia. But before they come in, make sure you hit that like button on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, go and download the podcast anywhere you get podcasts as well, and follow us on Twitter at Homestand. Follow me on Twitter at Albert Vartanian. I was taking a lot of shit yesterday because I tweeted out Rory McIlroy was putting for birdie to win the Scottish Open, and it wasn't on TV in Canada, and people got really upset at me for that for some reason. I don't know why, but if you want to go check it out, at Albert Vartanian is my Twitter handle.
Where was it?
Where was what?
Was it on TV?
Not in Canada.
So why would people upset with you?
I have no idea. They're like, oh, you guess you didn't look hard enough. And one guy's like, it's on Sky Sports. I'm like, I'm in Canada.
You can't illegally stream.
Yeah, I was called an asshole, dummy. Didn't hurt my feelings.
All because you couldn't find a stream on legal television
That's all
or
I
a
did.
legal streaming service.
You see what the hell? What the hell's
People
going
are
on
assholes.
here? And I have like 3 followers, so I felt important yesterday. Okay, James Sharman, thank you very much for joining us.
Why was Sarah calling you an arsehole? That's the question.
I don't know. Well, she was texting me yesterday saying that she had tears coming down her eyes watching Lionel Messi being presented in front of the Inter Miami faithful in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't because he was there. I just missed him so much.
It ended up being kind of an emotional moment.
It
like you
was,
watched
though.
it.
Like, it was just kind of, like, crazy to see how many people were there. And I guess, I don't know, like, it is just crazy and surreal that he's in Miami. He's going to be playing in MLS. But I was more just thinking about him and Busquets, and I was like, they could have been at it in Barcelona. I was like,
one more season in Barca?
yeah, I
Well,
think
that's why-
that's what got me.
I was just thinking over the last year we've had this conversation, this ongoing conversation, Sarah and myself, about where will Messi end up.
Crazy.
And Sarah's also no, clearly it's Barcelona, and I've been saying no, it's going to be Inter Miami.
Yeah.
No, Barcelona. No, Inter. I guess I was right.
Yeah,
Well,
you
that's
were
because
right.
Barcelona screwed it up. Messi openly has been like he wanted to go back to Barcelona. He would have gone to Barcelona if we could have if Barcelona could have supported like
play for Barca
his
too?
paying for him and whatnot. And
But even if they were functioning full cylinders financially, they couldn't afford this deal. I don't think.
no,
This
but
is
I think if
obscene
they
money.
gave him something, he would have gone. That's his home.
Yeah.
It's a 2-year deal, right? At
Yeah.
Miami.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me to see him in his career at Barcelona.
You brought this up a
100%
couple
that's
of
happening.
weeks ago. We
Oh,
talked
yeah.
about Albert was very much like he's gonna be back at Barca, so don't worry.
I don't know if he'll play. It might be one of those situations where he signs like a 1-day contract. You see it a lot of times in North American
Yeah, it
sports.
happened this past
So you
weekend,
can
actually.
retire as whatever team you want to play
I
for.
still think
Yeah.
Messi in 2 years' time is still pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe
He
not
keeps
La
hitting
Liga
towards-
top flight champion level, but
Yeah.
he'll play a role.
He kind of keeps hinting towards not playing at the next World Cup, and I don't believe him at all.
Yeah, I think it depends what happens. Like I've said this before at the Copa America. I think if Argentina win the Copa America, he might just be like, why not just go out on a high?
It'd be a great time to retire,
Yeah.
internationally at least.
Yeah, international. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe he'll be back at Barcelona. But for now, he's at Miami. And James, you thought the antics were a little too much.
Listen, if you're going to do it like that for Messi, okay, you do it for Messi. He's the one guy. But it's a bit ostentatious. It's a bit much.
It's very
I
North
kind of agree
American,
with Sean was saying
though.
earlier.
Like not even North American. Sorry, it's very American.
Yes.
Like this is not even in Europe. They
How
do
happy
the whole.
Jorge Mas is.
I know. By the way, net worth 1.4 billion.
The cool
Yeah.
Billy?
Great, by the way. He can
speak.
operate with a mic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Going
he's a
both.
politician. Did you hear the way he was talking to the crowd? I was
Yeah.
like looking him up, and I was like, this guy is a
Tell you
preacher.
what, Bex, who's criticised for much of his career for the way he spoke, has come a long way. He spoke really well. He spoke Spanish as well.
Yeah.
I thought he looks like a sports executive now, doesn't he? Until you
Yeah,
see
he's
the ink
class.
coming out of his sleeves.
Yeah, all the
Yeah,
tattoos.
I
yeah.
love it though, and the neck tattoos. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
love it.
There were a lot of people there, and I was even texting her. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah.
I saw like people were hugging each other, giving each other high fives.
You mean on the stage, are they?
A lot of patting on the back there. Oh,
Oh.
good job,
He's
buddy.
hangers
We
on
brought him
right?
in.
Entourage. Imagine what his entourage is. All these people wanting something from him. It must get to you. It's like
They wanna suck you dry, yeah.
A carcass in the Amazon being fed on by piranhas.
Oh, yes, that's a great.
But he's been in the
great
game for so
analogy.
long. Don't you think that like he has his people and like those are his people now,
hope
kind
so.
of thing? Like I feel like he does. Like he's kind of stuck around, even at Barcelona, and like Boosie was one of the guys. Like he had a close knit group of friends there, and all the wives are friends, and they have their little circle. So I think he knows his people by now. But yeah, so many artists, other athletes congratulating him, that like little montage they did, and there were a bunch of people there too. Kun Aguero was there. Kun Aguero, anywhere Messi goes, you'll see Kun Aguero with this little social media going crazy.
Yeah, piranha.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Another guy sucking at the teat of Lionel Messi.
Don't
There's
say
an image
that.
for you.
Don't say
Aguero,
that.
don't do it. I love Sergio Aguero.
Me
by the
too.
way.
Yeah.
So we should probably discuss Messi and this Inter Miami team. He's now going to play last place in the Eastern Conference.
Perfect.
12 games left. So I did a bit of math yesterday. They got to win about 8 or 9 of the last 12 games, which is pretty difficult to do just to probably make in that wild card spot, just to get into the playoffs. I think that's pretty difficult considering how bad Inter Miami is. But they are in 2 cup competitions, one being Leagues Cup, which starts soon. but they'll be long shots to win that thing. But
They're not actually. They're fourth favorites.
Has it changed?
It's
because of
fourth,
Messi.
all because of Messi. It makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense.
There's 47 teams.
Those Liga
in
MX
that
teams are
tournament,
incredible.
and they're fourth favorites.
Right.
The worst team in MLS.
Yeah. So listen, if they win that somehow, there's a spot in the CONCACAF Champions League.
Okay.
They're probably not going to win it, which leaves the U.S. Open Cup against FC Cincinnati in the semifinals. If they win that thing, that's a Champions League spot. And if I'm CONCACAF, I want Messi in the Champions League. So I think Inter might go all in on these cups and maybe somewhat forfeit the season.
Cincy's a good team, though. Arguably the best team in MLS.
Right.
It'd be tough. I mean, listen, that's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and even Wayne Rooney said, listen, give him time, because it's not an easy league. I don't care how good you are. It's a tough league to travel, the athleticism of that league. He's not really in game shape just yet. Hasn't played enough football recently, so give him time. He's going to dominate MLS. I have no doubt about that.
No doubt.
But to say it's going to happen this season is, I think, unfair to ask even of the
Because
GOATs.
they're in such a bad situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
I
nobody
agree.
there. They can't score goals.
Can you imagine if you're Messi and you come back in and you're playing MLS, so then maybe Miami doesn't make it, so end of October you're like, well, I'm done for this season. Like, that's so weird. Does he automatically just go to Argentina or the training ground
probably.
there and just continue training
What about,
with them?
is there a loan back to Europe possible here, like Beckham did by AC Milan?
Did not even think about that.
There's your boss. There's your
look
boss.
at this.
She hasn't thought about it either. She can't believe
Just
it.
in time for the real Champions League.
That's a lot of football, though,
No, that's too
It's a
much.
lot.
for him to
especially
play.
with the Copa America, like in
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Oh, by the way, just in case anyone is wondering, Messi and Inter Miami will not be relegated. That is not a thing that happens in MLS.
I wish it was.
Yeah, so
We all
no
wish.
issues.
Imagine
there.
that would change the entire mindset of a lot
Something
of
to
teams.
play for.
Messi comes to MLS, immediately relegated to
Immediately goes back to
USL.
Sure, USL. Let's
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Oh my
it will be
goodness.
USL probably.
Okay, we're going long on the show today. We're always like, it'll be a half an hour show today. We're about at 55 minutes. The Women's World Cup begins Thursday, July 20th. Lots of storylines. You got 5 that we should be watching.
Yeah, let's pull them up here. Of course, number one is going to be, see it. There you go. Christine St. Clair, obviously. For us Canadians, she's playing in her 6th World Cup. That's incredible as it is. And obviously, fellow Canadians, we're going to be excited to watch her. And we are assuming that this is her last World Cup. So a bit of an emotional ride that it's going to be for us, I think, because it'll probably be the last time we see her in red like that.
Yeah, I want a World Cup for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to retire from football.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that this would be her last, her swan song with the red. But she's still a decent player, and she's that drive and loves playing for her country so much.
Yeah.
But I know Beth Priestman's had that chat with her about when is the right time to. Will she start games? I wonder this World Cup. Will she come off the bench? I think she's going to probably start, but she won't play 90 minutes.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, they. You know what? I don't know. I say that, and then they always seem to still look for her up front there, and she gets the goals.
There isn't much with Janine Becky now hurt, and players like Adriana Leon not in great form.
Yeah.
Jordan Haitim has got to step it up. Yeah. There's players who are coming off injuries. They might need Sinky.
Yeah.
To do the job.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, she has the most international.
40-year-old?
Hey, she has the most international goals out of men and women.
Right.
She's like way past Cristiano Ronaldo. Like I think she has like 193, and I think he's 120 something or whatever. I mean, incredible for both. But like, this is what she does. So we have to watch, of course, Christine St. Clair. The second one I had, though, is the Americans, of course. Are they going to make it a 3-peat? I didn't even put this together until recently, that the Americans could go 3 in a row. Yeah, I mean, Megan Rapinoe is going to be done after this, so lots of pressure on her. And it could be Alex Morgan's last World Cup, too. I mean, they're in a bit
She's
of like...
33 now. How did that happen?
She's 34.
34.
Another?
How
Yeah.
do these things happen?
Right?
She's 34.
She's 34. So it could be hers, depending, because they also have so much talent getting pumped out of their, nation that in 4 years' time, we might not see her either. But if they go 3 in a row, like what? I don't know. They're so dominant in the women's game. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't be shocked. And they're one of the favorites.
We'll look at the Irish team, right, in Canada's group. Half those players are American.
Yeah.
They're a good team.
The States
Yeah.
are
So deep.
overwhelming favorites, plus 225, and behind them we have England plus 450, Spain 550, Germany
I like England
700.
at 450, by the way.
450 is not bad.
So
Then
that's automatically they're
Curious
not going
about
to win.
Canada.
James likes.
Well, that's fair enough.
Canada 25-1. So the odds makers don't believe Canada are going to make too much of a noise in this women's World Cup.
They're dogs. They're dogs for sure. It's going to be really tough for them. I think get out of the group and just go from there, just one step at a time.
Try and win it and avoid England, right?
Yeah, I mean they're in a group with the hosts, Australia.
No,
Sam
tough
Kerr,
group.
come on.
They're saying it's a group of death.
Yeah.
Nigeria, Ireland, and the Aussies.
Brazil also 25-1, and it's what, Marta's farewell World Cup?
Yeah, she's going to be retiring too, and without a doubt, the best female footballer ever in the history of this game. She's a legend in both the female and the men's realm of football. Like, she is up there. She has changed this game for the better. And she's 37, so older, sorry.
Oh, I call her Marta.
She seems older than that. She seems like she's been around for so long.
She's been around forever, and she's incredible though.
You think she's the best ever?
I think she's the
really?
best. She's
Why?
absolutely.
Why more than Sinky? Why more than, I don't know,
Abby
Rapinoe,
Wambach?
Abby Wambach, Mia Hamm?
I think because of technically how she plays. I'm not talking about what she's won. She'd break those girls' ankles. Like, Marta she's Brazilian. She has samba in her. Like, to me, I think technically she's way more gifted than all of them. But yeah, you could argue in terms of what they've won and records and stuff, it could be different. But I think as an actual just footballer and their skills, it's Marta for sure.
And finally, how will the host? Oh, there's two more. Sorry, how will the host Australia manage here?
Yeah, lots of eyes on Sam Kerr there in Australia. Obviously, you always kind of wonder how the hosts are going to do. And I mean, we're not super happy that it's in Australia, obviously, here in Canada, North America, South America, all the time zones that fall into that. It's going to be difficult for us, but they're hosting it, so it's really exciting for them, and it's never been there.
Is she the best in the world right now?
Sam Kerr?
On form, certainly. Best
Maybe
forward?
Up there.
She's been fantastic the last number of months, right?
Maybe best forward. There's a couple Alexia Putellas, I'd say, is better as a midfielder. Beth Mead is savage. I mean, she's obviously injured, but
there's so many injured players in this World Cup. I know it's
this
so
is
sad.
Going to be
the ACL story is something that's
similar to the men's World Cup. Lots of injuries heading into that one as well.
It's
I
always
think I believe it's 14 ACL injuries.
God,
keeping players out of this World Cup. I think it's crazy.
Yeah,
there's a big story there that's got to explode at some point because it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
In the women's game.
No, I don't think so. I think who was talking about that? Was it Janine Becky?
Yes.
Yeah,
she's one of them.
Yeah,
right?
No, I know that's why. But yeah, I think there was someone that came out. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they do. And then finally, we have the 32 teams for the first time, which is, I don't know. How do you feel?
I mean, at some point it must happen, but there's going to be some lopsided results.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think women's soccer's deep enough just yet to really have 32 competitive teams.
Yeah.
But hey, prove me wrong.
Where am I putting my do-re-mi? I know you like England. Who do you like outside of the States to win the Women's World Cup?
Spain will make a run.
Spain plus 550. I don't mind. What about France? I know France has been a powerhouse for a long time.
France is always
9-1.
I feel like you can always count on France being in the quarters at least, but I wouldn't be surprised. I gotta look into the brackets more, but yeah, I'd also keep your eye on Brazil, man. They're
Brazil 25-1.
Davinha. She's gonna be the.
Okay.
Great commercial, by the way. Do you see that?
Yeah, Kev sent it today.
Really
She's one of my players to watch, actually, and I was like, look at her.
Not as great as a French commercial. That is by far, I'd say, the best soccer commercial I've ever seen, and there's been some.
Which one?
Wow, that's a statement.
When they basically mapped the male players onto the women players, and these incredible goals, Griezmann scoring and Mbappe scoring, and we're like, wow, look at this, these players are amazing. Turns out they're actually the women scoring the goals.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's terrifying.
No, that's really I think it's
that's
terrifying.
what can happen.
I know.
But then,
what's real and what's not?
But football commercials are so legendary. Think about the old Pepsi ones or the Jogo Bonito, the Brazil.
Well, the last World Cup one was incredible.
Yeah.
What, Usando menos agua?
No, that was a great commercial too. No, where they were in the lab and they were recreating players.
Osmos.
Yeah, the Kyle Larin Osmos is maybe the greatest soccer commercial.
Wayne
of all
Rooney
time.
in the trailer.
Yes,
that's a great one too.
Okay, should we wrap up with a little Steph Curry?
Yeah.
So Steph Curry had a hole-in-one. It was American Century, I believe, was the tournament. Not only the hole-in-one, we have the video, so we can roll the video, but he also won the tournament, which is incredible considering he's still an NBA player, active, and he goes out and wins a professional golf tournament, or a pro-am, anyway.
And it's how he does it too.
It's how he does it, yeah.
Hole in one.
Hole in one.
Are we going to see the video?
Yeah, no, we don't want to see it. Well, we were talking about this.
I guess we're not seeing it.
Here we go.
No, this was something different. This guy is a specimen.
Yeah, well, the best is a celebration.
Yeah, because it's a basketball
He
celebration.
one-hops it in and then runs the entire way.
That is amazing.
Hole in one. This guy's incredible. What an athlete he is.
Well, that's what James and I were talking about off the show just before this, actually, is that with athletes, professional athletes like this, they're going to be good at probably most sports. Now, I know golf is a bit more technique than other sports. It's not as physical, but
it's difficult,
right?
The hand-eyes, all that stuff.
Think about Steph Curry and who he is. He he is that guy in basketball. He's so technical. He's not big and aggressive, but he knows like every degree matters to him. I think that's how it helps him in golf. But it's insane.
I mean, most sports, be it basketball, hockey, soccer, most of those guys play golf and don't just play golf. They're actually pretty good at it, right? Because it is that hand-eye coordination, I think. Yeah. More than slobs like us.
Yes, exactly. Slobs like us. Okay, just so quickly on this American Century Championship, it was him against Marty Fish in the last group. Marty Fish, former tennis player, I believe. So Marty Fish was up 3 points. It's a point system. Marty Fish goes to drive. Some jackass yells in his backswing. He blows it right into the forest.
No.
Even Steph is upset.
Really?
He ends up parring, which means he only gets 1 point. So he was up on Steph. But Steph ends up getting an eagle, which is worth 6 points, and wins the tournament. But if Marty Fish were to birdie that hole with the eagle, it would have gone into a playoff. So Fish got screwed.
Had Fish have won, though, we wouldn't be talking about that tournament on the show.
No,
today,
not at
right?
all.
The fact that it's Steph Curry and how he did it was the story.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Was it the guy from Big Gilmore?
Jackass. Who does it? Dude, what are we doing? Like, why are we yelling in people's backs? Like, are we really there?
Well,
as
people
a
are insulting you for a very
I was taking
inoffensive take.
Yeah.
So it just happens.
I didn't
People are
mind
angry.
it, though. I didn't mind it.
People are angry out there, Birdie.
People are angry. Don't be angry. I'm a nice guy. We're all nice people over here. Come on.
Okay, you're a nice guy.
Okay. All right, that's it. We've gone long enough here. Sir Pryor, thank you so much. James Sharman. This has been the Homestand Show. We'll be back tomorrow right here on YouTube, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join us.